learned something really interesting about you that you told me when we were in Central America together.
Really?
That you are an accomplished ballerina. So before I let you go, you have to tell us all about that.
Wow. So I danced for the Israel Ballet since I started dancing when I was, I think, 3 years old or 4 years old. And I joined the Israeli Ballet when I was at 8th grade, which is around 13, 14 years old. And I got injured when I was around 16 years old. And then I quitted. And yeah, it was a big part of my life. It was, I think, really hard. As I'm thinking about it today, I wouldn't say it on the first 1 or 2 years when I've been there. It took me some years to realize it, but it was really hard emotionally. And we should have been reconciling with sports psychologist, I think it's called. And yeah, I love this part of my life. Really liked it, but it was super hard at the same time.
Was it something that your parents put you in? Is it common for Israeli girls to all take ballet, or was it something that you wanted to do at 3 years old?
Wow, I think it's really common to do some kind of a thing, some kind of how do you call it, an afternoon activity?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's really common to just put, like, most of the girls, maybe some other, like there are boys, of course, also, to put the girls in dancing class. And I just loved it, so I stayed. No one was ever pushing me. It was all because everything was because I wanted it, and so I went there. And throughout the years, I moved from one studio to another studio to a better one until I reached the Israel Ballet. I was training for 19 hours a week. On my 2 last years there. So it was super hard. Like, I was also dancing at schools because we could choose like majors dancing. So I majored dance. So I danced also at school and in the Israel Ballet. So I had so many hours in the studio per week. Even though that I know that like the best teachers that they have are in the Israel Ballet, which actually were not Israelis. Like, I have one ballet master which graduated the ABT, the American Ballet Theater at New York, and another ballet master which was from South Africa, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And we were talking English at the classes and a bit of French and Italian, of course, because of the terms in the ballet.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it was really hard. So the story of the injury actually was that I just wanted to stay in the classes of my high school, even though that they were not as good as the Israel Ballet, just because I wanted more hours in the studio to practice on the things that I knew that I'm supposed to be working on my weak points. And then there was one day when the ballet master in my high school, she had to get her child really early from the kindergarten. So she wanted us to go and do the ballet class really fast, and we had no time to warm up, which is not good, absolutely not good. Like, for just a comparison, when I've been to the Israel Ballet, I was coming 40 minutes before the class to start to warm up.
Just before the class. 40-minute warm-up session.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, it was tough. It was something that you should be focusing on, and super important to heal your body and to prepare to the class. And we didn't do that on the same day. We were just going straight to the class, and we had to stand in the first position, which is, you have to put your legs in that way. And I was not warm, so I wasn't warm enough. Like, my body was not prepared. So my legs were not exactly in 180 degrees. It was just a bit tighter. And I said to myself, as long as the class goes on, I'll opening my legs a bit more and get to the right position. But then, as we were doing like a deep plie, grand plie, she just wanted me to open my knees more. And then she just pushed my knees to the sides. It was so strong. And I was like in shock. And there's part of the knee, I don't know the name of it in English, but it's that little circle. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, then in the knee, the structure of the knee.
Yeah, anatomy of the knee.
Yeah, so there are like different kind of muscles that are tied into this circle, but nothing actually holds it. So what happened is this circle of my knee got out of the place, and it was really bad. It was super. It's really hard and hurt in that time, and I had a physiotherapist that I worked with on weekly basis, and because of all of the long hours of training and things like that. So I was so afraid that because of this injury, I had to stop practicing or training for a week or two, that I just didn't tell them, which was my biggest mistake.
Oh, so you kept dancing.
Yeah. And the time just went, just go and go and go. And in the beginning, I couldn't do big jumps because of the knee. And then it started from big jumps. And later, as time went, I couldn't. After 2.5 months, I just couldn't walk because everything was hurting. So I just had to tell them. Then it was a really important lesson not to keep everything for myself again, ever again, just to share, not be afraid. And then when I told them that, they were like, you know that you have to stop training for like at least 3 months to get back to the point that you were before the injury. And it was breaking news for me because I was 16 back then, and that's the season and the age when you have so many different kind of auditions for scholarships and different schools abroad in summer. And it was not only that I'm basically leaving myself behind everyone and not practicing for this long, which is so much in ballet. It's really long because at the first place I was really terrified to not practice for like 1 or 2 weeks. So 3 months is actually dropping the career side, and I'm not be progressing, and everyone else will. So the gap is even bigger. So I just realized that I need to stop, that I cannot go any longer. And I just quit it. And actually, as I'm looking back now, it was the right decision for me, I think, because you have to be so strong mentally to survive there. And you have like this kind of ego that if everyone does it, I can do it too. So you don't really have, at least I didn't have the courage to say that I need to stop dancing because mentally I was not in a good shape as I'm thinking about it today. And so it's good that someone had to stop me. Something had to stop me. So that was the right decision at the time.
Yeah, I think so too. So that sounds like a lot of peer pressure. I mean, I only did ballet for like a year or something like that, but I was already in high school. I was 15 or 16 when I started, just because it was something I wanted to try. So I only did like a year of it. I was not like a ballerina prodigy like you that started at 3 years old, but I felt some of that pressure, and I had a Russian ballet teacher. So if that tells you anything. And I didn't start very young, and ballet is one of those things that you really do have to start when you're super young. So I kind of did it more like for fun, and I'm glad I did. It improved my posture a lot, and even like a few years after I stopped going, people still compliment me on my posture, the way I sit. So it was very good because I would be reminded of when my teacher would go and squeeze your back together.
I feel you.
You know what I mean? And you dealt with it a lot longer than I did. I think the biggest thing that it taught me was control of yourself and discipline.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing I learned from my ballet teacher is discipline. And you have to be very quick-witted to be in ballet. I'm sorry, it's not for dummies, but you really have to be sharp. You can't just be a good dancer. You have to be smart because there's so many things to think about with the following the music, and so many things you have to remind yourself of your body, the way you're placing your your head. You can't tilt too high. You can't tilt too low on your chin.
Right.
The way you hold your fingers, the way your back is, the way your shoulders are, your hips, everything. So you have to be such a quick-witted and clever person to just keep up with an exercise, a simple bar exercise. There's so many things that your teacher will not be afraid to point out that you're absent-minded on.
Yeah, it just reminded me of that. My ballet master that was from the ABT. There was one day when I held my fingers like that, and he just looked at me and said, "You are," and he was like thinking, "You have cactus hands, cactus fingers." And I was like, "What?" And he said, "When you did that, you have cactus fingers. Stop with that." And I was like, "Okay, I will." Yeah, it was super. It was funny and sad at the same time. I think the way that sometimes the people were treated, but it's all for good. I think, as you said, the discipline is incredible, and also the way that you embrace the fact that you just never give up. You have to keep going, keep working, and you'll get your goals. In the end of the way, it could take a week, it could take 2 months, but eventually, if you work hard, you get what you want. And super important lesson, I think.
Yes. I want to tell you about Packlicious, who specialize in dog collars, harnesses, and toys that are durable yet fashionable. My favorite thing about them is that each purchase provides 2 meals of food for animals at the Humane Society. Over 230,000 meals have been donated so far. Their website was super easy to use when I was shopping for my own pups, Tiki and Rue. Head over to packlicious.com and use the code TikiRue, which is spelled TIKIRUE, at checkout to get 20% off new gear for your pup or a gift card for another dog lover. Going forward, do you feel like ballet is something that needs change, like the whole culture and the way it's taught, or do you feel like they're right for wanting to keep the traditional way it is? And would you ever put your future kids in ballet?
Wow, such a good question.
That's another episode, right?
Yeah. Wow. I think I'll start with the easy one. I would go and put my kids to ballet class. I think that if they go professional, so I'll definitely would try to make them go to psychologists at the same time. So that's on that. And if I think the ballet culture needs to change, I think I thought about it a lot, and I don't think of any other way that could make ballet as perfect as it is unless this discipline. So I think it should remain this way. But there's a movement in the world, I think, to, especially during the COVID, to talk about mental issues, and that's okay to not being okay, and to talk about it and to share. I think there were so many other dancers that were in the same position and felt the same feelings that I felt, but it was not common to talk about it and to say that something wrong, and to say that your expectations from yourself are too high and you're being judgmental about everything and you're letting yourself down. It's not supposed to be that way. And if we were to share more, and that's maybe the change that has to be done in our culture, so it would be way more easier to continue that way. And also everyone will be way more healthy mentally and happy.
Yeah. And maybe be able to dance longer and not have to face these injuries that were avoidable to begin with, or at least, like in your case, get treated for it early on and not feel like, oh, I can't tell anyone that this happened to me and I have to just suck it up and just keep going to practice and keep dancing. Did you have to perform on your injured knee ever?
No, thank you. Thankfully, no.
Good.
Yeah, it was not in the period of performances.
Okay, good. Did you have to get surgery in the end, or it kind of healed on its own?
It healed on its own with a lot of
physical therapy.
The therapy, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now I'm curious, what were some performances you did? Were you ever like Carmen or any of the characters or leads?
I don't remember anything special, actually. Yeah, there was some performances when we were part of the company itself, because we were in the Israel Ballet school. So in the school, you're just playing like background kind of characters, and not anything like not the main character. So we were most of the times in the background unless we had our own performances, but it was still super fun.
It is like the top of the nation's company that you were in, right? Like the Israel Ballet, like that's like the top of the top.
Yeah, in Israel, yeah.
That's pretty amazing. I think you should be proud of yourself. That's quite an accomplishment. We have a famous ballerina here, guys. But yeah, I do appreciate you for bringing that up. And I hope anyone, maybe young girls that are taking ballet now, that can relate to this and just really promote that openness and honesty and safe space to talk about things like this that everyone struggles with, and not have to act like you're indestructible and you're always happy and you're always healthy and always up for practice and always ready to go. So it's good to really address any health issues that needed to be addressed, and even emotional level. I love that you brought up that you would definitely put your kids in ballet in the future, but just also make sure that they're seeing a sports psychiatrist or a therapist at the same time, just because we all know that there could be body image issues associated with this sport, and
absolutely
all kinds of peer pressures that normal kids wouldn't be exposed to, and these super, super high expectations that are almost all unrealistic.
You're right. You're absolutely right. Actually, when you said any problems with food and stuff like that, I've never had these. Like most of my friends did, but I somehow never gave up on this piece of cake in the end of the meal. Never. It was
you never went into dieting or like, oh, I need to lose weight because my instructor tells me I'm too fat.
Absolutely. Never, ever gave up on my piece of cake.
Oh, well, then you're one of the lucky girls that didn't affect.
Yeah, in that way, yeah. But I just love food so much since I remember myself.
You probably saw that around you and the other girls that were maybe having body image or eating disorders.
Yeah. Super sad. And those kind of stuff, things that it's really hard to let go from those kind of feelings. Like I have friends who are still dancing, even though friends were quitted, and they still cannot get rid of this attitude, which is super sad in my opinion. And they don't really know how to talk, how to deal with it. And part of the attitude of like, I think maybe it's only my friends, the things that I've seen, but I've seen a lot of people that saying that it's not common to ask for help and to discuss about your problems with others in this field. And these people are really afraid of getting help, most of them. And because I think as you go to the therapist, you actually face that you have to face with the deal that you have a problem that you have to solve. And many people are afraid of just, saying, I know that I have a problem that has to be fixed. I don't know how to stop with it, but it's really hard to face it.
Yeah, I guess that's like you said. Yeah, you're right. It's the first step is just to acknowledge that you need help, and it's okay not to be okay. I love that you said that. And that's very powerful, just a few simple words, but I think it can be very powerful for someone that's dealing with this, especially being someone who is trying to be a dancer or an athlete or a perfectionist about themselves. They feel like, no, I'm healthy. I'm supposed to stay strong emotionally, physically, everything. But that's not the case. And when you're barely a teenager and expected to have these super high expectations and to be perfect all the time, it's just really not realistic and it's not healthy. So I think if you still have those friends that are dealing with this, even now that they're out of the ballet academy, then they really should speak to someone, even if it's a caring friend or family member, if it's not a licensed psychologist or counselor. But it's important to just bring awareness and openly talk about it and not feel judged.
You're right. Yeah.
So thanks for sharing that. What a powerful, intense, and special experience in your life. Not a lot of people can say that I've danced for my country's premier ballet company. But thank you for sharing that with us. And I'm glad that you're okay now and you're healed with a lot of physical therapy, and you're hopefully being an inspiration to other young girls that may be having this experience going forward, and they can look up to you for wisdom and what to do. But to close out the show, I just wanted to ask you to think about something that you'd like to share with our guests as part of the Hook You Up segment. You've given us so many nuggets of wisdom already as it is, but what's one last thing you'd like to impart on everyone?
Wow, I think that's the reason why I came here in the first place. Like, I don't know how it came out, but I'm a really shy person, and I'm having really hard time to talk about myself, to share my experiences. So I think the only thing that I want the listeners to get with them is that I think people should follow the dreams and trying to do the impossible, even when they have a hobby and they get forward from one studio to another studio. If the hobby is dancing, just not afraid and push yourself to the limits. And you can apply it to everything. You can apply it to your hobby. You can apply it to your lifestyle. You can decide that you just want to go and travel and see the world and to meet new people, and just do it. As Nike said. Yeah. And not being afraid, and to know that even when you have fears, like my fear of people, let's say, you can deal with it and you can do something to heal yourself. And it heals only if you put yourself in those kind of situations that you don't know how you're going to react. And then you find out, and then you work on yourself. And yeah, I think this is it. Just do it.
Just do it. Nike, Eden.
Partnership.
I like it. So just going out there, having dreams. Like you said, it's still important to have dreams. Following up on your dreams, buy that ticket of wherever you want to go, and just doing it and being open-minded when it comes to listening to others and gaining experiences and going through challenges and seeing how you react to those things, and then learning about yourself along the way. Very wise words indeed. So as a reminder to everyone, this whole video will be on YouTube at my channel. And Eden shared with me some of her travel videos as well that I'll be posting on my Instagram page. So that's at MFMP pod if you're already following me. So I would love to share the adventures that Eden talked about earlier with you guys on there. So look out for that. And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much. Wow. Yeah, I'm so overwhelmed by everything. Thank you for giving me the stage. Yeah, and people do not stop being afraid of things. Just do it. Yeah. Just for repeating it so much, but I think it's super important to give people the courage to just do whatever they want. Quit the job if they need. Do whatever you need to do to make yourself feel comfortable and to live your life as you want it to be.
Perfect. Yes. So even if you're scared, because we all get scared sometimes, but just do it.
Yeah.
Well, it was so nice catching up with you, Eden. We'll definitely talk more with you. If anyone wants to hear more from Eden or wants her to divulge further into any of the topics on a future episode, let me know on social media and we can definitely make that happen. Bye, Eden.
Bye. Thank you so much.
See you soon.
Had such a good time.
Thanks for listening. You can now drop me a voicemail that might be aired in a future episode. You'll find the link in my Twitter and Instagram bios at MFMP pod. Subscribe to my YouTube channel by searching Many Faces, Many Places, all in one word. Lastly, make sure to tap the follow button on your favorite podcasting app to stay tuned for new episodes.